You're listening to the Scarf Bagara War, part of the Talksport fan network, and charity partners with Mentel, for county fans, by county fans.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of this season's Courtyard Club Call. As is now the norm, we are recording this on Sunday evening following the 1-1 draw with Charlton at the Valley. I'm Jimmy Harmer, and I'm joined as always by Dan Culverwell. Now, today we have something very exciting for you. We have a fan guest on the Courtyard Club Call, and that fan guest made his TSBW debut on Wednesday with Russ and Waggy. And we all liked him so much that he's back again. It's Lee Rolo, or Big Rolo, Roly. And of course, he's got his little friend behind him, the cardboard Tanto. So welcome to the show.
Running Armstrong, played in the game. And a superb goal. And it's Connolly who scored it.
There we go. That was just for you, Lee. We know that Sean Connolly was your favourite ever goal. I think you say he beat 4 people and then spanked it in the top corner with his left foot. But that wasn't the goal, unfortunately. But it was still a very rare finish from Sean. I think he probably scored not many goals anyway. So thank you for coming on again.
No worries.
Yeah, no, brilliant. But we talk about the Charlton game. So I think we all watched it. Dan, you were there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was there. I don't know why I'll keep on going back to Charlton. It's a nice stadium, but it's not the easiest probably to get in and out of.
That's London for you, I guess. So anyway, before we do that, we've got a competition winner announcement. So Dan, do you want to run the? Well,
yeah. So we ran
first. Yep.
We ran the competition on last week's episode. So we asked 5 questions. The first question was: we have played Stevenage 3 times in. We have played Stevenage 5 times in our history. And we've only beaten them once. What score was that? And that was 2-0. I'm losing my plot here. Sorry. What year did we first play Wrexham? And it was 1891. Was question 2. Question 3 was: how many times have we previously played Lincoln City? And the answer was 110. Question 4 was: how many teams have we played with Cole Burton, or started with Burton Albion, Burton Swift, so on? And that was 4 times. And what year did we last play Reading? And the answer was 1998. And for the ones that remember, 1998 was a good year because that's when Man City got relegated. And a pint would probably cost you about £1.50 in Wetherspoons in 1998. So it's a good time. So we had plenty of entries in there. And yeah, we're just going to now draw the winner. Just have a click of the mouse. And the winner is Wayne Broughton. So Wayne, I'll pop you an email to let you know about your prize and everything. Brilliant. Thank you very much for everybody that entered, and we'll probably try and do another one at some point during the season.
Nice one. Well, thanks for that, Dan. So I think before we get into the game, should we just listen to a short clip from Charlie's post-match with Liam, and then we can have a chat about it.
Minute 1 today, it was on to play a little bit more, and we didn't. We just played forward. Now that was a decision that was the wrong decision. We just kept turning the ball over and giving the ball back. And although they had possession and didn't really hurt us massively, we didn't have any control in the game. Our goal comes from a long goal kick that Powley gets in front of and gets smashed by the goalkeeper. We're better than that, or at least I'd like to believe we're better than that. And for me, that's more around just decision as to. I'm not saying play all the time. I'm not saying take stupid risks. I'm saying back what we've done. If we've got someone in space and it's a bounce out, then play that bounce out. If we can't do it and we don't trust people to be able to do it, then just get better at it. Just work harder at it. Because some of the stuff we see through the week in training at the minute, well, I didn't see today. I didn't see enough of it today. And I think then once you get into a habit of deciding I'm going to play long, then when someone is on the ball, people stop making options, stop giving them options. So they just say, oh, we're playing long, and don't give any passing lanes. So then you only have one decision then, and that's to stick the ball forward. Hence, if we're going to do that, then we may as well play with different personnel in different parts of the pitch. And I don't think that's the way forward. I don't think that's what gets the best out of our team.
Yeah, he was proper frustrated, wasn't he, with that game? So, Lee, I mean, how did you see the game? Do you want to take us through or tell us what you thought of the starting lineup? Were there any sort of surprises in there for you?
Not really. I mean, I kind of expected Nick Powell to play after his cameo against Wigan because I thought he'd come in and look well, and I thought he actually played really well yesterday. A bit disappointed to see him go off the pitch, if I'm honest with you. Me personally, I'd like to see Diamond in that team every time, because I think what he brings to the table and what he can do, I think, is what we're missing in there. I think what he's got, and I've had this discussion like being with someone we were talking about yesterday. I'd like to see Jack Diamond in a central role. I think he's the legs that could go in the middle of that park. I really do. So that was probably the only surprise that he wasn't playing. But it was very much as I expected in terms of lineup. Along those lines, yeah, I'd say it definitely was.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, we sort of got a hint that there might be Camps or Wootton missing from Dave's sort of Friday afternoon pre-match interview. Obviously, Camps was missing. Wootton did play. Same again. Nice to see Nick Powell on the thing. I think the first half, him and Wootton linked up really, really well. Ollie Norwood obviously coming back in for Camps. Not disappointed, but I'd still think we haven't seen the best out of Ollie Norwood. So yeah, I think the back five now, back four, back five, back six sort of picks itself. Was sort of surprised that Connolly got a place in, really. I thought he might have stuck with a back four with Toure and obviously Mingy. Still, we haven't conceded a goal while Mingy's been on the pitch. 60 seconds after he comes off, gets substituted, we end up conceding. But while he's on the pitch, we've not conceded a goal. So yeah, it was you know, I think everybody's going to be surprised with every starting lineup because even when you look at the bench, you know, players like you say, Diamond, Alafi, Fevier, Bailey, you could definitely, for his cameo that he came on against Wigan, you'd argue just as much as what Nick Powell got the opportunity. He deserved a start as well. So yeah, getting 11 out of 11 each week is going to be a hard pick for that. And like I say, the formation, obviously fought mob, and it was free at the back a lot of the time, I thought, but Mingy seemed to be very much pushing more forward on the right hand side, more as a sort of right winger than a right wing back or a right back as such. And Toure sort of didn't go as forward on the left hand side as much. And that space was sort of occupied by Barry a lot more.
I thought it felt like a very safe team selection. I think Charlie was mindful of what Charlton could do to us, and I think that selection of Mingy at right wing back really put us on the back foot from an attacking point of view. The only sort of three attacking players we had really on the pitch were Barry, Wootton, and Powell. And Powell he wasn't that far forward. He wasn't getting as far forward as you sort of alluded to, Lee, like a Diamond sort of player. So you're going to get something very different with him. I think he was maybe also in there to combat their set pieces because they were very good, I thought, on the set pieces, and they had some pretty tall guys in there. So Powell does a really good job at that sort of defensive job as well, with the height and the ability that he's got in the air. So I think he definitely went safe. And because of that, we ended up just bypassing, I think, Bate and Norwood. I mean, Charlie, in other parts of his interview, sort of alluded to that the central defenders, they just kept on hoofing it up. And what's the point in playing Bate and Norwood, these two very sort of tricky, or technically very good passing players, if you're hoofing it up? I don't know. I mean, my uncle is a Charlton season ticket holder, just like my dad used to be. And he was at the game, and I got a WhatsApp from him, and he said, "Pitch is looking really good, James." And I was looking at watching it on telly, and thinking that pitch looks like an absolute shite. I mean, like, the ball wasn't running properly; it was bobbling all over the place. I mean, who could blame the players for not trusting that ball running? What did you think, Dan? Did you think that? I mean, I'm hands up. Okay, if anyone's clipping this, I am not blaming the pitch for us drawing that game. Okay, but Dan, do you think the pitch was shit? Because I did.
From where we sat in the stand, it didn't look too bad. But like you say, I've seen highlights and I've seen some vlogs of the game, people recording from the Charlton end high up, and it looked, even saying to my lad earlier on watching it, that pitch actually looks awful. It looked like a ploughed field in parts. But I must admit, where we were sat in the away end, especially, and I was sort of halfway up that lower tier, it didn't look too bad, to be honest. And the ball was running, it was passing. They had sprinklers on it before and during and at half time on it. So yeah, I did see comments about the pitch, but like you say, until I actually saw the highlights on the TV, it didn't look too bad until that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No, I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
Okay, so let's just very quickly go through the stats from the game. So they had loads more possession than us, 63% to 37. I think 37 is the joint lowest that we've had all season. That's the same as against Crawley. Their XG was 1.5. We had 1.04. They had 15 shots. We had 8. They had 7 on target. We had 2, and that leads into me. I think Adai was probably just about our man of the match. But we can talk about that later. They had 349 accurate passes to our 169. Bloody hell, that is a shit stat, isn't it? 169 accurate passes in a game, 62% of all the passes. They did 13 fouls, we did 15, and it felt like we had the whole of our team yellow carded at one point in that game, and I don't think they had much themselves. So, Lee, my big question for you, okay, and this is sort of thinking about the rest of the season. With Powell now back, okay, he's obviously back in favour. He's probably match fit now. He's got a couple of starts. Or sorry, he came on for the last game, didn't he? 45 minutes, started this game. Do you think that Powell and Norwood can play in the same team as each other?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, they can. They've certainly, if you look at the experience and the ability that both players have got, then yeah, I mean, you could say they do that. Whether that's going to be our most effective midfield of play, and I'm not sure that it would be, because obviously then you've got again players like Bay, Camps, and whatnot that can come in and do a job. Mingy, once everyone's there for the defence, he can play in midfield as well. So yes, they can play together. I mean, Norwood is he's reading the game. He's 10 seconds ahead of everybody else on the pitch. Powell's very, very similar, and I think what Powell does when he has played in the brief times together with Louis Barry, I think he's linked up really well with Louis because he can read and see. And there was an incident, but in the first half where he goes to set Barry in, Barry's gone, come back, and then it's gone. He's gone and played the ball, and he's not been able to get it. But that will come over time. So yeah, I think Nick Powell's got a big role to play. It's just keeping fit that's going to be the big issue, and Norwood always fit. So yeah, I think they can play together. I'm just not sure that it would always be. I think you'd have to judge it game by game because different teams will have different strengths. Norwood's not the quickest, as we know, but he's quick-minded, so he reads the game really well. But there'll be times where we have to maybe stick in another holding midfielder. You could put Powell in there because he's done it before. So, but they're the other options. I mean, for me, I would personally only play one or the other, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But I still think that there will be opportunity to play together.
What do you think went wrong with the midfield then, Dan? Because to only have that number of passes, obviously something went wrong. And as Dave said, he felt that the central defenders decided to bypass like Bate and Norwood. So there's something wrong with their positioning, or were they marked, or the high press? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, same again. Total number of passes in that game for County was 273, which is exactly the same number of passes we had against Crawley away only a few weeks ago. And like I say, the accurate passes is just abysmal. 62% accurate passes. And like you say, a lot of them passes were long passes as such, not long balls, long passes. They were being very much closed down in midfield. I think there is a bit that probably show up on the highlights where Norwood got caught in possession right on the centre spot on the halfway line, and that turned into an attack. And that was sort of happening all over in that middle area of the pitch. And it was weird because I think we started off quite well, actually. We started off really playing well, and we got the penalty. And you look at obviously the penalty chance. I know it's a long ball from Corey from a goal kick. Wotton's gone up for the header. He's got nowhere near the header, but the ball's then sort of run on. And you've obviously got Powell that's run onto the ball and been clattered by the keeper, but you've got Barry as well that's running alongside him. So you've got them two running past Wotton, which is what we've been crying out for, people to make them runs for Wotton to actually able to flick it onto and build it off. And that's what was happening. We scored the penalty, and then we just seemed to sort of want to sit deep and try and play. It was just too early in the game to try and see out a 1-0 win. And like you said, we struggled a lot of areas, I thought, on the day. And it just felt inevitable that they were going to get a goal.
If we just rewind, Lee, do you think it was a penalty?
For us?
For
Definitely.
us.
Oh yeah, definitely a penalty. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm only surprised the keeper didn't get carded. If I'm perfectly honest with you, as soon as it happened, we were all up in it. It's a penalty. I was calling for a red card. I'm not lying to you, but yeah, I think that's probably about the only decision the referee did get right in the game. So yeah, it was a stonewall for me.
So it's a bit hard. Oops, sorry. It was saying it's hard because we was at behind Corey's goal at that time, so we're all watching it and going, he's blowing his whistle, and we think it's free kick, and it's like because there was quite a little bit of a delay, a few seconds delay for him to give it, and it's like he's giving a penalty. It's a penalty. He's giving a penalty, and you're sort of like, excited, but yeah, it was like a delayed response. And if anybody's that was in this stand, the away stand, says, "Oh, it's a stonewall penalty," because they saw it, they must be lying, because it was like I said, the other end of the pitch, you can't see what was going on. We see someone's gone down. It takes a second. Well, who's gone down? We were all fearing the worst. It's something like Barry, Powell, and then they go, "Oh no, that'll be him gone for the season." Then, that'll be him out for another 4 games. And it's like, yes, he's got back up off his feet, but yeah, he's. I've seen a highlight of it. I've seen him given, and I'm seeing him not given. To be honest, it's one of them. I'm not going to, argue with the referee on that point.
You see, I think in real time, definite penalty. But then when they started showing all the different angles, all the keeper does is jump straight up in the air. He doesn't dive to one side to stop Powell from running around him or anything. And Powell's momentum sort of just drags him into the keeper, and obviously the keeper's jumped in the air. Powell hits him, goes down. So I think I'd have been gutted if we got a penalty against us. I've not listened to the Nathan Jones post match, but did someone say on socials that he'd basically said that Powell could have injured his goalkeeper's knee with his head or something, something random like that? Because that's effectively what happened, wasn't it? The keeper's so high off the ground that Powell ended up headbutting his knee.
I mean, you see red cards given for stuff like that, though. I'm not saying it was a red card or anything like that, but you see red cards because the way they're going, there's both momentum, but I think the keeper's got more momentum coming out. So while they are clattering each other, he's clattering Powell more for me. And that's
making sure that he was making himself so big that if the ball did get past him, Powell wasn't going to get past him to get onto the ball. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's what the referee was thinking. Yeah.
But it's
dangerous play.
But it's our first penalty of the season, isn't it? We've
is.
actually got, so first penalty of the season. I'm not gonna. It had to come from somewhere, and like you say, it's more likely always going to be the dodgy one in it. That decision, and in all fairness, Louis Barry, there was a lot of penalty takers on that pitch. Same again. It's like Louis got the ball. Louis got the ball, and you never know now who somebody having the ball is not necessarily the person that's going to be taking the penalty, as it should be, because we all know about all the housery that goes on trying to get into a penalty taker's mind. But no, when he got the ball, he put it down, and it's probably a look like like you say, he's been scoring penalties for fun day in, day out. There was no pressure at all on him.
Except he missed the last one, obviously. Do you remember?
Yeah. And the only worrying
we were all
part was
not County, yeah.
When he scored the penalty, he went off to running to slide into the corner, but he couldn't slide, and he ended up nearly getting his knee jarred into the grass when you watch it, because he's like, no, this pitch isn't for sliding. So luckily, I just thought, don't hurt yourself.
If anyone's got him on social media, we need to get him a new celebration. I don't know what it can be, you know what I mean? But we need to word him up about that. Something unique. I mean, the best ones, Shearer was always that one, and was it Robbie Keane did the flip and all this lot. And so I think Louis Barry needs his own one that doesn't risk injury, for Christ's sake.
Do you know what I think Louis Barry needs? I think he needs a celebration for assists. That's what I think. And this is what Dave thinks about Louis Barry and assists.
Too many chances in transition, but there was that one big moment, I guess, for Louis Barry just a few minutes before their equaliser, and as he has Nick Powell on the back post, that feels like a big moment in the game.
Yeah, I don't know whether Powell is obviously a little bit disciplined. I don't know whether Louis should square it. It's a part of the game that Louis needs to get better at. If you look at, and listen, that's not taken away from him. I think he's on 7 or 8 goals now this year, so you could say that if he was a little bit more unselfish, that he had less goals. But if you look over the course of his career, I think he's had less than 10 assists over the whole of his career, and I'd suggest that includes a whole lot of games. So he has to pick them moments, especially on his left foot.
Yeah. So if anybody was listening to the Courtyard Club call, was it last week or the week before, I think Dave was listening, because I said exactly that. Louis needs to get more assists. For such a good player, he doesn't pass the ball enough in those sort of situations. But there we go.
It's a tough one, though, isn't it? Because I mean, I like it. I mean, in the rest of that interview, he says, "Look, I'm not going to not have the backing himself. He's got to back himself, and I love the fact that he's doing that. I think, ultimately, Louis Barry's going to want to play in the Premier League, and I think there's definitely the raw ingredients there. If he wants to play at that level, consistently, then his decision making is something that he has to work on a lot. And I would have thought that's something that we're working on a lot with him in training, because decision making is going to be the difference in, it's the slightest little things, isn't it? Especially at the top level. So that'll be the one thing. But yeah, I mean, I'd back Louis Barry every time. And I thought, if you'd have said to me the time he's going to shoot, I'd say he's going to score. So that's it. But yeah, he's probably right telling what he says. He just needs to get that sort of decision making right in terms of when to shoot and when not to shoot. And that's something that hopefully will come this season for him as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A really balanced opinion against my very negative, Louis, you need to pass the ball more. So good point. So Dan, whilst we're talking about Louis, obviously his strike partner was Carl Wootton yesterday. How do we think he played, and was it his fault that he didn't seem to play particularly well, or would you put it down to the teammates around him?
No, and I also can remember what Charlie said, that he's got I don't know if it's an injury or something, a condition they're managing. I thought first half he looked right. He looked okay. He faded off very quickly in the second half, I thought. But the first half, I thought he was doing really, really well. And like I say, with Powell sort of up there a little bit, Barry as well. When they sort of getting opportunities and chances, I thought they looked promising. And like you said, Powell was sort of really good defensively on the corners and set piece, because normally I think we look quite steady and sturdy on them sort of defending set pieces, but every time, first half and the second half, you're sort of like gasping. You're thinking all you want is Corey to come out and catch it.
And he never does, does he?
No, he won't. And that's what you want to do, because defensively we didn't look that sort of strong defending them set pieces, where in all fairness that's one of our strengths. But yeah, no, Kyle, just same again, just not his day. Like I say, first half I thought he did really well, but like you say, just second half he dropped off a bit. But Challoner did say that him and Camps were sort of managing niggles and stuff, so we don't know if that's played a part.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so if we go sort of further back then, so I had Adai down as my man of the match. He made, they had 7 shots on target, I think it was, only scored 1 goal, so he must have made either 6 saves, or maybe there was a block in there as well. What did you think, Lee, about Adai's performance? Do you think he's growing into this sort of number 1 role now, or do you think the jury's still out a little bit, or?
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Corey Adai. And, to have someone that's capable of coming in and replacing Ben, I didn't think we'd ever find anyone. I think there's areas of his game, I think we've kind of highlighted it there, saying, in terms of coming out and commanding his area, which I thought, I think Ben's fantastic at that. And that's hopefully something he can take off Ben. In terms of it, but I'm a huge fan of Adai. I think he's got, again, all the ingredients to play higher. There's just little aspects of his game that he needs to work on if he's going to be that all-round keeper, because obviously the higher up you go, you've got to be better at everything, haven't you? So I think he's a great keeper. I think he's been a fantastic signing and an absolute snip. And I think eventually, once we start seeing the best out of County, when because I said this the other night, I don't think we've got out of second gear, and if we have, it's been very rare this season. But I think playing out from the back is going to be key, and he's going to be a key element to that. Just needs.
But we've stopped doing it, haven't we? I mean, we have stopped playing out from the back. I don't know whether that's a knee-jerk reaction to the opposition, and maybe we were expecting them to press higher and what have you. So, but Corey Adai, the first few games, it was like, oh great, okay, well we're going to get some interesting games here with him. Sort of, we've all got our hearts in our mouths. Shit, is he going to get caught? Is he going to do a little Cruyff turn? I mean, what is he going to do with the ball? And now it's literally boom, 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 long balls, isn't it? It's got to.
I can't wait to do that Cruyff turn.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see whether we do sort of revert back to it. I also wonder sometimes whether we play slightly differently away from home as well. Leighton Orient game aside, where they are obviously racing to a 2-goal lead quite early on, you are going to probably set up slightly differently playing at home compared to away from home. So playing Northampton on Tuesday is a good chance for us to hopefully get the 3 points to sort of make the draw that we got at Charlton good. Okay, good. Dan, what do you think of the sending off? Horsfall sending off, was it tough?
Well, it was two yellow cards. The first yellow card was because the goalkeeper kicked the ball at him. Now, I thought Horsfall was standing outside the 18-yard box, and the goalkeeper's rushed to the end of his box and kicked it, and he hit him, which I think, tough luck, basically. But he's got a yellow card for it. The second yellow is definitely a yellow. There's no arguments about that. And then, obviously, because it's a second yellow, it is a red card. But I just thought the first yellow was a little bit harsh, to be honest, because I thought when the ball struck Horsfall, he's standing outside of the 18-yard box.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I just assumed because he was blocking, he basically stopped, didn't he? And he was sort of trying to put his body in the way of the goalkeeper because he knew that he'd been caught upfield effectively. What did you think, Lee?
Yeah, I think he's looking at him and he's following his body position, as the same as the keeper's trying to move out his way and he's following it. So, I mean, it's one of them you could probably argue and say, no, I wasn't doing that. But yeah, I think unfortunately in today's game, it is a yellow card. But I don't know, maybe a bit more clever at doing that, I suppose, next time. But I have no problem with players doing that, by the way. If you're taking one for the team, because that's, in my opinion, that's what you need took one for the team, and because we could have got caught out. So yeah, I have no issue with it.
And I think it's our first red card in the league for like 2 years, isn't it? I know Crowsdale got a second yellow and a red in the EFL trophy last season, but we didn't get a red card at all during the normal league season at all last year. So, yeah, we were the same again. Like a penalty, we were due one, I suppose, at one point, and we got like buses that both come along on the same day.
And we seem to handle it well. I mean, let's move on to that game management. Obviously, when when Horsfall was sent off, Adai fell to the floor like he'd been shot by a sniper. And then obviously all the 10 players that were on the pitch ran over to Dave, getting some instructions on how to set up, maybe one imagines. So yeah, and then we also took a lot of time over goal kicks and throw-ins in general in that second half. I've seen a few social media comments of people saying that, oh, I don't want my team doing that. I don't want my team doing the dark arts of wasting time. What do you think, Lee? Are you happy with us doing that if it means we get a point out of it?
Yeah, I have no problem with the dark arts, because every person that says they don't want their team doing that, their team does it. Every team does it. It's not like it's a unique thing. I think Corey's probably got a bit flamboyant when he does it. I think that's what it is. I think he loves it as well. I think because we get pelters off the Charlton fans, and I'm sure he'd have been loving it. But yeah, listen, every team does it, and the amount of teams that come up and do it against us, and I'm stood up in the Cheadle end and I'm banging my watch every 2 minutes, going, "What's going on? Come on, get it moving!" It's part of the game, unfortunately. Ultimately, and I said this because I used to speak to a referee that I knew. He refereed in the Football League. And I was saying to him about this added time and everything, 30 seconds for a goal. He went, "No, it's all nonsense. We add on what's meant to be added on. We stop it, and that's what it is." So, if the referees and the officials are adding it on, then it unfortunately, like I said, it's not the prettiest watch. And of course, you don't want to do it, but if you've got to do it, you've got to do it. Every team does it. Every team at every level does it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Horsfall got sent off. It felt like the 85th minute or something like that. And like you say, and I think then he played 7 minutes of injury time. So like I say, the last 10 minutes, we were all sat there watching it through our fingers, basically. And it just felt like one of them ones that, it was an onslaught as such. Corey's, I think he's pulled off probably 3 or 4 saves, really good saves. Near the end, they've had the ball go across the box. It felt like 3 times, and all he needed was a little touch in it. So we've rolled our luck. Like you say, we've got away. We weren't the better team on the day, and we've come away with a point. A good day to be a County fan.
Are we happy with a point then, Lee?
Yeah, and I mean, like I said on Wednesday, I said I'd have took a point before the game. Let's have it right. They're a good side, and while I don't particularly like the guy, that Nathan Jones is a good manager. He is, and they've got good players. I thought when they brought that, is it Lieber? I thought he
was excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, he caused us an absolute nightmare. We just couldn't deal with it. They're a team that looking at them, you'd expect them to be, in and around the top 6 come the end of the season. So, before the game, if you back it up Tuesday with a win, it's a fantastic point. And it's probably, I think Callie mentioned it as well, didn't he? He said it's probably the one draw we've had where actually we weren't the better team. We've not come away thinking, "Well, I should have won that." Actually, this time we've had our bit of luck. So, yeah. We've been due a bit of luck. We've been due a bit of that. So yeah, I'm pleased with the point. And I took it before the game. It's frustrating when you've been winning for so long, but we didn't deserve to win the game. So yeah, well happy with it.
So with 10 games played now, are we? Because I think they were probably the best team we've played out of all the teams that we've played this season. And we, like you say, everyone says, "Oh, you've had an easy start." Well, actually, when you look at Blackpool, were tipped as one of the big boys of the division. Barnsley was tipped as one of the big boys. Wigan are, should expect it to be a top half, if not in the playoffs. And now Charlton. So, these 4 teams there that you'd expect to be in the top 8 of the division. And I think, like I say, Charlton were definitely, for me, by miles, the better team. that we've played so far this season.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, it leaves us in 9th position in the table, so 17 points from 10. So yeah, if we can back that up with a win against Northampton, and then we've got a lot of home games coming up, sort of end of October to middle of November. I think it's 6 on the trot, including 2 in the cups. We've talked about that before. So hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, I know that the games are against higher ranked or teams that are higher in the table than maybe the ones that we have played. But it's certainly been nice to see us sort of ease into the season, and I think we should all be in agreement that we're not going down this season. We've got too much quality to go down, and you could argue we probably haven't got enough quality to go up and then maintain that in the division above. So I know that Charlie has said, hasn't he, that it would be quite nice to consolidate this season and sort of get the players, this sort of new group of players, after getting rid of so many in the summer, sort of know how to play with each other and then maybe go for it next season. Cool. Okay then. So, yeah, I mean, I think great point away from home. So I'm pleased with that. And Russ, was it a 6-pointer? Russ doesn't believe in 6-pointers. So I have this thing with Russ that he thinks there is no such thing as a 6 points because you can only win 3 points in a game. But I would argue against that. And I'm sure John Kieran mentioned the term 6-pointer when he was on the pod a few weeks ago. So John Kieran, I think, knows more than any of us about football. So I'm going to go with him and say, yes, it is a 6-pointer. If they're like, yeah, thank you. Good. Nice. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So, I mean, we can have a chat about the ref if we want to. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about him. He's a bit shit when again, it seems to be the same.
There's a usual hand gestures that go with it, you know what I mean? So that's what I think of that referee, yeah.
He was at the season standard, should we say, of refereeing. The season standard.
I thought it was nice how Dave said that he didn't cost us this game, which is about the minimum requirement you're looking at the moment when we're getting referees. So so if the ref doesn't absolutely cost you the game, then at least it's something.
So it's a concern that though, isn't it? It's a concern when that's what you can hope for with referees. I mean, listen, it's a job. I wouldn't like to do it myself, so it is difficult to criticise, you know. But it's you know, ultimately, if you're not performing very well at the job, then usually you go and have more training or you do something else. And I think the standard of refereeing, and it's the inconsistency, I think, more than anything. You know, I mean, I don't think they deliberately get anything wrong or anything like that, but the inconsistency.
I have noticed though this season we seem to be having a lot of referees that have been refereed League Two and National League games this season or so far. We haven't had a referee yet that have actually been doing championship games and dropped to League One to referee one of our games. We had plenty of refs in League Two last season that were mainly League One referees, and then when it was a big game, they would come down and do our game. But we just don't seem to be getting them referees that are coming from the Championship. We seem to be getting ones that have just done National League or League Two, and then they've been chucked up for their first game in League One. And I don't know if it's because they seem our games are quite easy. They're not no red cards in there. We've not had, you know, obviously until Saturday, not had a red card in the Football League. So they think that's Stockport County is a nice training ground to bed in a new referee. And that's, I say, what we seem to be getting. But obviously, Tuesday comes along very quickly. Northampton, obviously Fraser Horsfall won't be will be missing. I assume as it's 2 yellows, it's only 1 game suspension. So we'll be back on against Lincoln on the next Saturday. Who do we think is going to go in for Fraser's spot?
I don't know. Do we change shape? Is the question. I'd quite like to see us go with a flat back 4. If I'm honest with you, I would expect that it's either going to be Connolly or Hughes. You would imagine, probably Connolly with the fact that he has been playing. But then is he, you know, does he offer the same sort of presence that say Hughes would, offer like Fraser does? So that should be interesting. But I'd like to see us go with a nice back 4 and just let those defenders focus on defending. And yeah, personally, I think he'll go with Hughes because I think he'll want the presence in there. I don't think the young lad on you go, the midfielder. I don't think he's looked at home at centre half, so I wouldn't be tempted with that. I'd probably say Hughes because
I
of the
think
presence.
I think that is a top shout, and I'm sure I saw that Hughes, he's got something like a 96% header like win rate last season or something random like that.
Yeah.
Was it Hughes or was that Connolly? Actually, no, I think it was Hughes.
Yeah, it was.
He didn't play well against Blackburn when we lost 6-1, obviously, but nobody did in that game. So it's not a yardstick that you can compare him to, I don't think, that game. So yeah, I mean that's a great shout, and also I love playing 4 at the back, especially at home. Let's just go for it. Let's make them worry about us rather than us thinking, oh well, they're going to do this and they're going to do that. So we'll have Mingy here because he's a bit defensive. No, let's put Diamond on. Let's put Fevrier on, and let's go for it. Tanto on.
You
Yeah,
made a point there. Fevrier, that's a great point because what that boy needs is a bit of consistent game time playing. I know he's looked better coming off the bench, but players, a young lad, he's up north probably for the first time in his career and everything like that. What he needs now is just that little bit of belief in him to say, right, we're going to play, say, a 4-3-3. Back 4, probably picks itself when Horsfall's fit. Then either have, say, Norwood or Bate holding, have Diamond and maybe Powell or Collar or whoever in them sort of attacking midfielders. And have a front 3 of Barry, Fevrier, and then one of Wootton or Tanto. Tanto ideally, so we can do the celebration. But that's no knock on Wootton, by the way, because he's had a great season so far. But yeah, and that's what I see us doing. I watched Leeds the other night, and I know they're a top Championship team heading for the Premier League. But the way they set up, I could see the same sort of qualities that they've got, that we've got in that team in terms of players. It's take the ball on the half turn and move forward. Look to, not always pass forward, but more often than not look to pass forward. And it's all quick, fluid. And that is how that, for me, is like the sort of blueprint of what we should be aiming to be becoming in terms of a team. So, but yeah,
good shout that.
So roll on Tuesday, obviously at home at Northampton. Then obviously Wednesday, Russ will be back with the live show with Waggy on Wednesday. I also think that Russ will be setting up a new bet game to go live on Monday. So if you joined in last time on that, not sure what it's about. Basically, it's a £5 to enter. The weekend's fixtures, you have to pick a team to win. If you draw or lose, you're out of the game. If you get the right selection, you go through to the next round, and that happens every week until there's what they call last man standing, and that last man standing wins the pot. The pot basically gets £5 to enter. So if there's 20 players in, there's £100 in the pot. Half of that goes to our charity partner Mentel, and half of that, then the other half goes to the winner. So yeah, it's one of them ones you could win it in 1 week as such if you're the only person to pick one team and everybody else picks the wrong one, or you could take, I think the last game took 5 weeks, I think, for a winner to get picked. Once you've picked your team, you're not allowed to pick that team again in the next round. So that's, a little bit of a thinking man's game as well. You have to sort of look ahead, because if you pick Birmingham when they're playing Cambridge and they're guaranteed the win, then it might be a bit of a waste of a pick. But yeah, it's a bit of fun. So if that interests you, I think we had 26 players last time for the last round. And Russell, like I said, we're looking to be setting up a new game, I believe, on Monday. If not, it'll definitely be live by Wednesday, so keep looking out for that.
If I just say one thing on that, I believe the selection opens on a Thursday, so you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I guess, to make your selection. If you don't make your selection, you get an auto-generated selection made for you. So I didn't make my selection, and I was given Wrexham, and they ended up drawing or losing. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. So just be aware that if you want to be in this game, look out for or make your selection for the team for the weekend on the Thursday, Friday, or Saturday.
Bit of good fun.
Cool. Thank you for that, Dan. So, and thanks for Lee for coming on again. It's been great having you on. And I just want to say that my season ticket is just behind you to the left, and my previous season ticket was just in front of you to the left. And we used to get wet, so we moved a little bit higher up in lower tier 3. So you were very sort of famous for me and my daughter with the Dave Challoner cardboard cutout, and she used to turn around and say, "Oh, he's there again, Dad, he's there again." So you don't know me, but I knew you before this, so thank you for that.
Make sure you come and have a chat with me next time you see me, get your photo with it. I mean, I apologise if you've been sat next to me for that long. I really do at games, because there's not many people that stay around me. It's like an exclusion zone. It's like, oh God, he's here, is he? We've got a few lads in front of us. They're good friends of ours now. We meet at away games and I take this beer before the game. These look things that we do, because I'm very superstitious. So I'll tell you what, Dan, if I see you at a game, I'm going to tickle your beer, just so you're aware of that. It's a look thing. You probably heard on the thing, I'm lucky underpants and everything, you know what I mean? So it's one of them. But please come and say hello to me. I'm in our ladies, or I'm in the ground. If you don't see me, you'll certainly hear me, usually shouting at the officials. So please come and say hello.
Amazing. Well, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Okay. Cheers.
Enjoy,
bye.
bye.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Scarf Bagara War. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Remember, you can catch us every week on your favourite podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. And a huge thank you to all of our Patreon members. Your contributions help keep the show running to bring the content you love. If you'd like to support the podcast and get access to exclusive special guest episodes, ad-free podcasts and a monthly giveaway, head over to patreon.com/the Scarf Bagara War. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates, behind the scenes content and more. You can find us on X, Facebook and Instagram, all at County Podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review and share it with your fellow County fans. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Scarf Bagara War. Come on, County!